Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Films and Stuff podcast. As always, I'm Ethan, and as always, I'm joined by Pete. Hey, Pete.
How's it going, buddy?
Everything is great. What is the topic du jour?
We're going to talk about our favoritist show ever. I say that with all the sarcasm I can muster. We're going to be talking about Amazon Prime's latest fiscal disaster, Citadel.
Season 1 has concluded after all of 6 episodes.
Let's address the elephant in the room. This show cost $300 million. And they only put out 6 episodes. $50 million an episode. And anyone who's seen this is going to ask the same questions we're going to ask, which is, where did that money go?
Also, why did that money go?
And how did that money go? And when did that money go?
I want to state for the record, so that I'm not misquoted, I fully support Amazon paying $300 million for a season of an international spy series. But, and there is an important but, I do not support that season being only 6 episodes long, and I do not support that season being populated by actors that are at best indifferent and at worst tranquilized.
Okay, so maybe before we go into the premise and the breakdown, I'm going to throw a wild guess here, but this is probably a skip for you?
You know, in this messed up television world that we're living in, it is not a skip.
Oh my God.
It is not a skip, because if season 2 came out tonight, I would absolutely binge it tonight.
Yeah.
But, and that goes to show Amazon, I'm not an unreasonable being. I do like a lot of things about this, and I do love entertainment. But in terms of whether or not this has created value and has created a beloved franchise, the answer is no. There are franchises out there that people love and are passionate about. Game of Thrones, for example, Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, Mad Men, Sopranos, go on and on and on. The characters are infamous, larger than life, right? Tony Soprano is larger than life. No one in this show is likable or endearing. And that's my problem with this show. Not that it's not entertaining or well done. It's that it does not have any character. It's almost too perfect. And the perfection prevents me from actually having like feelings towards it. Does that make sense?
I agree. So I think what you're saying is and what you're saying is a very important thing, which is in our rating systems, generally speaking, when we say a show is a skip, that doesn't mean we're never going to watch it again. That's just our recommendation to others that, look, on the basis of this season, on the basis of our semi-professional critical eyes and our opinions, this show isn't worth the 45 minutes a week that it was coming out for, which, by the way, it wasn't even full hour-long episodes, yeah? So It's actually less than 6 hours of content for $300 million. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed watching Citadel, but under the caveat that you and I were watching it with an Amazon watch party, and we spent more than 50% of the time messaging each other and talking about how ridiculous what we just saw was. So I found enjoyment in that aspect of watching Citadel. Now, if I were to sit down and say, all right, I'm turning off my phone, I'm going to watch this show sincerely, I would not watch past the 2nd episode, maybe the 3rd if I were being generous.
So, Pete, as always, you have articulated what I'm thinking, and that's correct, first of all. When we say skip, we don't mean it's terrible. We say we understand that most of our listeners have a busy life.
Yeah.
They need to prioritize things. And what we're doing is we're telling you what you must watch, what you can watch if you've got some extra free time, and what you should skip because it's going to be a waste of your precious free time. For me, I will always watch Citadel. If they have 9 seasons, I'll probably, I don't know, at least I'll watch the second season. I can commit to that. But the first season, yes, I watched it, and sometimes I enjoyed it. But for sure, if you have a spouse, you have children, you have a job, you have pressures, you have all the other things, and you've got 1 hour a week to yourself that you can watch a show, it should not be wasted on Citadel.
Exactly.
Wasted on something else.
Let's take a step back now that we've kind of given our ratings, and I think that's unanimous. I think for both of us, it is a skip, at least on paper.
It is.
Let's talk about maybe the premise and the history of the show, which is to say that this is Amazon Prime. They approached the Russo brothers, who I think everybody on this planet has kind of given them all the credit in the world for a series of excellent MCU movies, right? They did Captain America 2, they did Captain America 3, they did the last 2 Avengers movies.
Endgame 1 and 2.
Exactly right. So they've
got a track record. Yeah.
Exactly. They've built that resume of not just action directors, but a large ensemble cast and espionage. Espionage has kind of been their go-to, right? Like for me, I still think of Winter Soldier as one of the best, if not the number one movie, top 5 in the MCU, because they said, hey, look, we all know Captain America is a super powerful guy who can run fast and can punch hard. Let's put him into the position of being a political operative. I thought that was great.
Winter Soldier and Civil War, I think, were the peak of MCU.
I genuinely think they're definitely 2 of the top 10 and potentially 2 of the top 5 movies in the MCU.
Yeah.
Leveraging that, and to their credit, the Russo brothers have leveraged their track record with the MCU very successfully.
Yeah.
They parlayed that into an incredibly expensive movie with The Gray Man with Netflix, and now Citadel with Amazon Prime. And functionally, they've gone with the same overarching theme, which is this is effectively an action/thriller in the espionage and spy world. Gray Man was supposed to be with theoretical potential for sequels, to be determined if that's going to happen or not. And with Citadel, when they went to Amazon, they pitched it, again, on paper, brilliant. The way they pitched it was, we don't want to just make 1 season. We want this to be a 7-season arc, and we want this to be a connected universe. So the Citadel that we see is, let's call it the main series, and it stars Priyanka Chopra and Richard Madden as the 2 leads. Then their idea was that they wanted to have a Citadel in India, which I believe the first season is already running or being produced. And another show called Citadel Sophia, which we saw the trailers for, which is the same show, but now set in Italy, from what I understand. Conceptually, this is brilliant because it's a connected, shared universe.
I'm disappointed you and I didn't think about it. It is brilliant. We give them credit.
It's fantastic. If I'm an Indonesian guy sitting in Indonesia, I may not find any cultural feelings of connection to Citadel. But if you tell me that there's going to be a Citadel TV show based in Indonesia, and that it's going to connect to the Citadel show, the main one, and to all of these other Citadel shows, and they all have independent yet somehow loosely connected storylines, genius. Absolutely genius, and I love it.
Genius.
And we've seen similar things like with, I think it's Chicago Fire, Chicago MD, and all these other TV shows on CBS, where individual dramas, individual series, all set in Chicago, and sometimes they'll do cameos with each other's shows.
Right.
Think of it like that, but on a global scale and in a much more exciting genre. On paper, this is a win.
Why on paper is it a win, but on screen it's a fail?
I think execution was horrible. when you have a show like this, you need to have a compelling set of actors. The storyline can be a bit meh and generic if you'd like it to be, but that can be made up for if you have really kick-ass actors, and I don't think they nailed it. I think their casting was an absolute flub.
I agree, and sorry for naming names, but I feel that the casting is entirely wrong. I mean, there's really three names here, right? There's Richard Madden, Priyanka Chopra Jonas, Stanley Tucci, but everyone else is not A-list as these three are, right?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about casting, I think that's really where our concerns are is those three. And I'm going to say it, but I'm sure I'm speaking for you. Mason Kane, Richard Madden, super handsome dude without any emotion. He's just not coming across as relatable. And the alleged intense love affair between him and Nadia, who's Priyanka Chopra, on screen just has, I'm not even exaggerating, I think it's fair to say it has zero chemistry.
I think negative chemistry. I think they actively hate each other in real life too.
It may actually be. If there was something by Perez Hilton or Page Six that came out and said these two cannot stand each other, Nick Jonas is super jealous of Richard Madden, I would 100% believe it, because they seem to be just the opposite of in love. They're almost seething at each other. No love chemistry whatsoever, right?
I think that if you watch the show on mute, it might be passable. But the reality is that you've basically got a series where the casting director just said, who is the most beautiful Indian woman we can find? Tick, Priyanka Chopra. Who is the most handsome?
I'm sorry. I'm just going to cut you off. I do love Priyanka Chopra. That's not the best Indian woman to cast. She may be the biggest Indian woman name to cast.
Sure.
She is not the most beautiful, and she does not come across as the most likely to be an agent, to be honest.
This is one of those examples of shows where I really think they went with an agenda for who they want for their show, where they basically said, we don't care who you cast and how they act against each other. We want someone who's incredibly attractive. And let's not kid ourselves, Richard Madden is a very handsome man.
Why not cast Nicholas Jonas? Honestly, it would have been way better if they would have put Jonas in.
I don't like Priyanka Chopra to say, I don't think she's good at all.
I loved her before this show.
I can't stand her. It could be tall poppy syndrome. It could be whatever it is, but I don't like Priyanka Chopra. And she is not, regardless of how I feel about her, she is absolutely not selling it that she's a top tier one agent in this show.
I would say someone should be on set blowing a whistle and saying, hold on, cut. Priyanka, can I just talk to you in your trailer for a minute? Let's give you some background on this character, right?
Yeah.
I feel like she's getting it really backwards. She's coming across, it's not passive aggressive, but it's like she's putting the opposite characteristics of what she thinks this person should be like to the forefront. Ultra toughness. At the same time, she's not wearing any top that's zipped up past her belly button. That's an exaggeration, right? You cannot combine those two things. She's this hard to get, I don't fall in love, I'm not in touch with my feelings, but at the same time, falling for her boss. The whole thing is just messed up.
There are some women actors who have very successfully played quote unquote hard women.
Angelina Jolie.
If you look at the old school, very stereotypical, very sexist view in Hollywood, it was action stars are supposed to be men and gruff people. They're supposed to be bruising and so forth. There have been a number of women who have successfully challenged that stereotype, who have come off as not just women, but also as extremely capable hard asses, and they've successfully sold that. You're absolutely right. Angelina Jolie is one of them.
Alicia, whoever, the new Tomb Raider.
Alicia Vikander.
The Kate lady who plays the Witcher, whatever this one is.
Oh, Kate Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale, right?
She's definitely one of them. Mia Jovovich. from the
Yep.
Resident Evil series.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, Michelle Rodriguez.
Oh, yeah. We just named 4 or 5 that would have been better cast.
And if you put all 5 of them side by side, there's no formula to them. So I'm not saying that you have to be a brunette, you have to look like this. They all look vastly different.
Yeah.
They all have vastly different skill sets, but each one of them has very successfully portrayed physically capable and scary, talented, physically aggressive characters without it being off-putting. And if you go back in time, Sigourney Weaver was one of those characters.
Yep.
That stereotype doesn't exist anymore. Having said that,
oh man, the lady who is in Atomic Blonde,
Charlize Theron.
Yes.
All of these women are 100% capable, and Priyanka Chopra is absolutely not. And I'm not saying she's not capable of it. I'm just saying that she does not come off as
not her
being that. We see her throw punches, we see her shoot guns, we see her do all of that thing, but she does not come off as believable as a physically gifted, talented super spy.
No.
And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Yeah, I'm not saying that she's good or bad, whatever. I'm just saying that some people can pull that off, some people can't.
That's what casting is. Or you write a different character. And you
Absolutely.
say, hey, we want to cast her. She's going to be...
Make her the tech genius.
Exactly. Give her a different specialty.
Make her the operator who's kind of overlooking on Overwatch, who's got the camera screens, and she's like, oh, you have to go in the left door. No, your other left, you idiot. That kind of thing.
I agree. If you really want to cast her, then change the role a little bit, because I agree. No one's
build around her skill sets, and they didn't do that. I think they built the skill set and said, okay, we're going to shove Priyanka Chopra in this box. And I'm telling you something right now, she does not fit in that box.
I'd say the same thing for Richard Madden.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
At least he's physically capable and gifted, but on the other side, no personality whatsoever.
Especially for someone who's supposed to be so madly in love with... I mean, you've got 2 people who are basically saying their personality is aloof. They are not trusting. They're aloof personalities. They are subordinate and supervisor in a spy agency. Like, everything is screaming these people would not get together, right? And yet somehow they're having this kind of like illicit relationship that leads to her getting pregnant, that leads to her hiding the baby, that leads to all these other lies. It's just, you can't buy into it, right?
Same problem I have with Stanley Tucci.
My problem with Tucci's character is that they're not using him consistently.
Yes, exactly.
That we see him and he's like this badass shooting people point blank. And then he's kind of like this tech genius who's been surviving on the inside, who's got an ex-wife with a lesbian wife. Okay, unnecessary storyline. And then we see him as kind of the smart aleck who's captured. And then we see him as the guy who can talk his way out of any situation. His character isn't like defined. What is he? Is he the badass? Is he the tech guy? Is he the Ryan Reynolds smart aleck? You can't combine every single trait you want in a character into the same person and expect that person's going to be believable or likable. Tucci is great. He's always been great, but you've got to give him his role and not make him carry it. One episode, we don't see him at all.
Okay, look, I think we've also forgotten our own way here. So we've talked about the 3 main characters, right?
True.
Let's talk about the premise of the show. Can you remind our listeners, what is Citadel?
So Citadel is actually pretty innovative. The premise is that there are a lot of bad things going on in the world. We cannot trust any single government and their own politically minded spy agency to stop these things. So there is an alleged independent collective spy agency, which is kind of like a nonprofit. They're supposed to be benevolent, and their only goal is to prevent bad things from happening in the world. They have no loyalty to any specific country or region. They just want peace and harmony. But they're apparently kind of like known to exist by other countries, but they're not particularly in like competition with them. They're not being hunted down, it seems. but other countries' spy agencies seem to kind of recognize that there is this independent collective out there, and they just kind of like let them go on with their business. As an idea, I'm kind of okay with that, I have to say.
Not super plausible, but fair enough. That's fine. That's the premise of the show, is that you have effectively a non-governmental organization that's a spy organization, right? So instead of being a charity organization like Oxfam, they have control of nuclear weapons and so forth.
I'm okay with that. They essentially have two arch enemies. One is just overall global bad guys, and the other is what we understand is something called Manticore, which is a collective of 8 crime families. So there's probably a Mexican cartel family, there's an Italian mafia family,
there'll definitely be one in India, because otherwise why would they have the show set in India? So
somehow these crime families have gotten together and said, hey, why don't we also have a collective? So Citadel is trying to keep peace, but at the same time battle Manticore. I'm not sold or not sold on that premise.
It's generic. It's very Bond villain-esque.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no difference to me between Manticore and Spectre at this point.
It's not the reason why this show is not working, let's say.
Yes. So let's actually talk about that now. So that's the overall premise. In the first episode, we learned that Manticore has finally struck against Citadel, and in one night has killed 10,000 of their agents or whatever it is, and basically dismantled their organization.
That's right.
And as a way to protect Citadel agents are able to have their memories wiped. And that's what happens. So Priyanka Chopra loses her memories, Richard Madden loses his memory, and then we catch up to Richard Madden and Priyanka Chopra 8 years later. That's the first episode. Of course, as you'd expect, and you saw in the trailers, over the course of the season, some people start getting their memories back, and we get to learn more as to how the organization fell, why Citadel fell. There's obviously a traitor involved. And, that's the first season. And the problem I have with the show, and the reason it doesn't work, is because a lot of this show is very predictable. Like, none of the twists and turns are shocking in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, I think, like, between Ethan and myself, we kept a running tally of our predictions, and almost every single one of those predictions came right. And that's a problem. We are 2 professional idiots and semi-professional critics. We shouldn't be able to outguess the Russo brothers and the writers at Amazon on a show that cost $300 million to make.
So, Pete, you are right, but I'm going to walk back something you said. I mean, I would not say that we are professional critics, but it is fair to say that you and I take entertainment more seriously than most.
Sure.
We consume more content than most.
Definitely.
We consume it differently than most.
Yeah.
What are predictable twists for you and I have to say, for the majority of people who are going to watch this, it's not going to be. Like, for example, we've got a friend, let's call him AM. Okay.
Okay.
He is enthralled by this show and thinks it's entirely unique. And it's because he watches one show a month.
That's true.
You and I are watching 3 a week, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Right. We're watching 12x the amount of spy dramas he's watching. So you're right about the fact that it is very predictable. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm just saying that I think you're at a professional or semi-professional level in terms of your consuming of this type of stuff. For the majority of people, I don't think that's going to be the deal breaker. But I think it's how sterile some of these storylines are that's grinding you and me the wrong way.
Yeah.
I think it's the sterility. Let me say something nice about the show, and then I'll go into what the flaw is. The show visually, just like we saw with the Rings of Power, is exceptional. If we wanted to know where the 300 million went, I still don't think you need all of it to make the show look as good as it does, but the show does look great. the color, the richness. If you've got a nice television, like don't watch this on a laptop. Really watch this on a television. If this was a cinema, I would say watch it in a cinema because the color and the visuals are really, really good.
Yeah.
But the downfall to that is that every location they're in is too sterile. We just saw an episode, the season finale, where they're in a submarine. I don't know if you've ever been in a submarine. I haven't spent a lot of time in submarines. Submarines do not look like this perfectly fit out, sleek glass, black surfaces, everything's clean and new and neat. Submarines are a little bit gritty. And I have a problem with every single scene is in the super high tech touch screen, mirrored glass environment, you know, with these kind of like elegant lighting features and stuff. Like that's not where everything takes place in an international kind of spy thriller. And I think that they've made everything look too pretty and there's nothing really gritty about it. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of holding me back from the storyline, that it's making it seem predictable, is that I'm too focused on the storyline because the environment is too sterile for me to like really get caught up in what I'm watching on screen.
I think that's exactly right. To go back a step from what you were saying, the visuals are good in terms of the locations are pretty cool. I love that train sequence in the very opening scenes of the first episode. I thought that kind of stuff was cool. So you're right that the colors and the locations are quite striking. Some of the gadgets look pretty cool, right? Again, it seems James Bondish that way.
Yeah.
Some of the effects didn't come off right, like when he jumps off of the ski slope and like skis came out of his feet. I thought that looked kind of silly and stupid.
Yeah, the jet was pretty bad. The fact that this one microchip, all you have to do is land on top of the sub, push a button, and like the nuclear code microchip pops up, seems to be a really stupid design flaw, right? Like, why is a submarine, first of all, at periscope depth, where like it's, I don't know what you call the top of the submarine, why is it out of the water, right? And why is the one area where you're able to access the nuclear code microchip outside of the sub where it's like least defensible, right? That's the kind of stuff that like just drives me bonkers.
What you're hitting on is exactly right, which is conceptually on a very high level, the writers and producers have thought of some relatively different ideas that we may not have seen on a TV series, at least not on one of this scale.
Yeah.
But when you come down to the nitty gritty, there's a lot of things that don't just make not sense, but they're just glaring plot hole issues, right? And some of the writing is also, and this is not me slamming anyone in particular, but it felt very amateur hour. So first of all, the bad guys are called Manticore. It's a group of 8 families. So why Manticore? Like, why this mythological creature which has the head of a lion and the body of a griffin and a tail of a scorpion? Why not an octopus or a tarantula or, you know, some other 8-legged creature? Then you have names like Mason Kane, Nadia Sin, Dahlia. These are names that, I don't know if you ever played Command and Conquer Red Alert back in the day. This is, you know, a game that came out in the 90s for the PC. Or if you ever watched the TV show Archer. These are the kinds of names that almost seem so farcical. They're parodies of the spy genre.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of names that I would use in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign that I was making.
If you're going to give like a fake name at a hotel, this is what you
exactly. What's your name? Max Powers. And this is Nadia Sin. And this is, you know, Mason Kane. I don't know. It doesn't feel exactly right. And I think a lot of it is because some of the storylines are cliched. Like there's a man with amnesia. He's a part of a secret organization. And over the course of the movie/TV series, they learn more about it. Did you ever watch that classic movie with Gina Davis, Long Kiss Goodnight?
Oh, yeah.
Where she was the spy. She gives up the tradecraft. She loses her memory and becomes a loving housewife. And then she learns that she's actually a kick-ass spy. It's exactly that. So that's what I mean by saying it's cliched. It's that even if you can't see the twist coming, you know the premise. So if you know the premise, then you need to make sure that the people who are pulling the premise off make you say, I don't care if this is an old premise or not. I really want to see it because I love these characters.
What else to say? I mean, I'm just really disappointed with the show. I want to like it. I mean, I think the overall structure is super. I can get behind Citadel. I think Manticore is a little bit farcical, as you said. I mean, it should just be called the Council or the Family. You know, you can just refer to them as something. It doesn't have to be like they adopted their own mascot, you know,
Yeah.
like it's just kind of silly. And I'm just not believing the relationship between Madden and Chopra. That's really the building block of this entire season one, which is you have to believe in their relationship where they have this strong, overwhelming, uncontrollable love and passion for each other. And then you see them do the things that they do, right? And that's not coming off.
That's the crux of this problem, I think,
Yeah.
of this show. I think that if you can somehow in season 2 turn around that relationship so that it's believable, and I don't mean relationship like they have to be, you know, husband, wife, or whatever, but that relationship as in the interaction between the two of them, once it becomes more believable, a lot of the other nonsense we can ignore, and we're happy to ignore it. Like, I don't really care because you're invested in the two of them. You're not invested in the premise. Whereas right now, I'm more invested in the premise that's being, their acting is almost a disservice, or their chemistry or their lack thereof.
Yeah, the background is becoming the foreground because it's so distracting.
Exactly.
I have to say, though, I'm also not feeling the stakes. We've gone through 6 episodes. What are we trying to accomplish? Yes, we're trying to keep the world safe, but what are we really trying to accomplish? And I'm a little bit lost. They've had like all these kind of like missions, but they all feel like they're just set pieces and there's not like stakes. I'm not really sure. Like, okay, there were some, we talked about this, I think, you and I privately, which is this is 8 years later after the big night of assassinations, right? We're somehow still dealing with like nuclear codes. It just seems so far-fetched that none of these nuclear codes or none of these things have changed. I'd be more excited if they were trying to like identify like an unactivated cell of Citadel and trying to activate them. And the only way to activate them is to go country by country and see them in person. Or if there's some people like we saw this one dude's Carter, still not really sure what was going on with Carter. They've got to like break a bunch of these, you know, detained colleagues out. I'm just not feeling, what are we trying to achieve through all this?
You know what I thought would have been a brilliant twist is that, so we learned in the first 2 episodes that their memories can be taken away, but then returned to them with an injection.
Yes.
What if all of a sudden Mason Kane's memories are implanted in somebody else?
100%.
And Priyanka Chopra's memories get implanted in other agents.
Jumanji. Yes.
You can now build up Citadel again using the memories and skill sets from Agents Lost.
Dude, I am so with you on this. And this is a tried and true method. All right, we're back. The examples like Face Off, right?
And
it's also Jumanji.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it funny because this isn't supposed to be funny, but I definitely agree that it would be great if Abby gets Nadia's memories and Nadia gets someone else's memories and Mason's are gone. So he gets a copy of Bernard and there's 2 Bernards and you could create super, super cool stuff with that alone. And
I'm telling you, the advantage to this is that if tomorrow the producers have decided, you know what? Priyanka Chopra is not working for me. Richard Madden's not working for me. Guess what? You can kill them off.
Right.
And still have the character of Nadia Singh and Mason Kane. Just now they're in somebody else's body. And then maybe their chemistry is better and the show takes off. And maybe that's the premise where in order to prevent this from ever happening again, every season it's a new agent. Now Priyanka Chopra is no longer Nadia Singh because She's got a kid now. She doesn't want to be in this game anymore. So she gives up her memories to somebody else and she's out of the game. And every season they're like, oh, this is brilliant because now Manticore will not know who to target because every week the agents are changing.
I think we should write to the Russo brothers. This is a really good idea. I have to say, if there was such a technology available, I'm going to make this multiple choice. Would such a technology be A, embodied in a microchip, B, in a syringe and a needle, or C, in a capsule or tablet? I think it would be a microchip, right?
I agree. I think microchip.
I don't understand why this is like these little glass vials with a
super fragile.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not like a COVID vaccine or like a tetanus shot. Like, there's got to be a better. Oh, well, let's just inject them with this white liquid. That'll give their memories back.
Yeah.
Are you injecting them in the brainstem? No, just the shoulder.
Yeah, like, it's fine. This also includes the flu shot.
This is also a flu shot. Good news. You're vaccinated and you've got your memories back.
I don't know. I just think that I still stand by my point that because we were so busy focused on the farcical nature of the relationship between Priyanka Chopra and Richard Madden, all the other flaws of the show became accentuated. I
would say a better storyline, rather than supervisor subordinate falling in love, is it would have been better, to be honest, if it was like one-way love, right?
Oh, yeah.
He is infatuated with her, and she's like, look, you're my boss. I don't know why you think you're so arrogant. Like, I'm a serious agent. My mom was an agent. I'm definitely not going to mess this up and start like a romance with my boss. And he's like going out of his way and giving her preferential assignments, or she's infatuated with him. There's so many different ways to spin this thing than they just falling in love and romantically engaged. And
in a world where everybody seems to be connected, what difference does it make?
Now we know that Mason's mom is the head of Manticore, right?
Yeah, or at least their hammer, whatever she called it. Yeah.
And his dad is somebody.
It's just, I think the problem I have is it's a mishmash of all these tropes from all these different spy movies. Yeah. And the problem is that it's not coherent. And it's not coherent primarily because none of the actors are either consistent or selling their parts.
So we saw the trailer for season 2 at the end of the season finale.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a trailer for season 2 or if that was a trailer for the Italy version of Citadel.
It looked pretty good though, right?
It did look good. As a trailer, I was interested.
Yeah. But I mean, again, we go back to the first idea about this, right? This season fell flat, but the idea of having multiple interconnecting lines, I think, is great. I think it's a missed opportunity that they didn't launch India Citadel and launch Italy Citadel. At least launch those two storylines in this first season of 6. Then you launch those two series separately. I'd definitely be engaged in both of those now.
Yeah. Or, when they're talking about the agents that are missing and presumed dead, have a reference to 2 agents in India and 3 agents in Italy or something. And then it's kind of like, oh, while this was all going on in America, this is what happened in Italy and this is what happened in India.
It makes a lot of sense because the season finale, you could have had Nadia say, well, I've got to go to Mumbai and I've got to find this person, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you could have Mason say, I've got to go Venice and I'm going to go get this person, right? Yeah. And that's the finale. You set the path for now. Wait a second, there's 3. There's Bernard and what's he going to do with Ashley? There's Nadia, we know, is going to go to Mumbai and try to save this guy, or she's got to get this. And Mason's got to go here and do this thing. Now you launch these 3 things on Amazon, and I'm watching 3 seasons all at the same time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all crossing over. That's what my 300 million should have gotten me here.
Yeah. I think it's clear to our listeners that we've been big proponents of being fiscally sound when it comes to these movies and shows. I understand that there were a lot of creative differences and reshoots that required a lot of, time and effort.
Yeah, that's true.
But despite that, this is not a $300 million show. Not for 6 episodes. Definitely not. I really think, and maybe I don't understand Hollywood math, but I really don't see this as being more than $100 million. And I'd see that for at least 10 episodes.
I'll reiterate it. I'm totally fine spending 300 million if I'm going to get my money's worth. But if you're asking me, I don't care what it costs. But I would rather have, if you're saying, hey, we could only make 6 episodes, I would say, look, I don't need all the Range Rovers. Cut the Range Rovers out, save some money, and give me another episode. If you're asking me what I want as a viewer, I want an episode. I don't need to see 8 black Range Rovers following each other down a dirt path. That gives me as a viewer, that gives me no value. I don't say, whoa, that's cool, Fast and Furious style. I say, it's nothing. I've seen a million Range Rovers in my life. To see 8 in a row doesn't do anything for me. I'm happy if they just show the inside of a car, which could be any type of used car.
Yeah.
It's just no production value. Show them from the roof. Show them like on a, like some Doppler system where they're just like little red dots, like a radar.
Yeah.
You get the same value for me as a viewer. I'm telling you, Russo brothers, what I want. I want a good episode. Give me a 7th episode where it shows 3 people going off into 3 different countries and launching a new series. Save the money on the Range Rovers, on the helicopter, on this stupid hover airplane, on all this other crap. Go get a used submarine, which you can get on eBay for $10,000. Have them do the fight scene in a proper submarine. I know that no submarine has like all these LED screens and stuff. Like, stop kidding around, like spend the same money, but give me an episode in return.
I bet you they spent $10 million making that dolly to make the camera go upside down and zoom in every time. So stupid.
For sure. Actually, I hope that they just like tied a guy to a chair and like there are 6
right with one of those cherry pickers or cranes.
I'm super disappointed by this, and I wanted to succeed.
I think they went with style over substance for a lot of things. Yeah. And the problem is that can maybe carry you for a movie. That can maybe carry you for a couple episodes. That will not carry you for 7 seasons and 2 spin-offs with more planned. That is not going to work.
I can't even bear the idea of another season of Mason and Nadia talking about their
so-called feelings with each other. I just don't. Why didn't you tell me about her? Blah, 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 blah. It's just awful.
It would be a better storyline if they would actually not like each other. She's like, okay, I'm assigned to you. I think you're arrogant and I don't think you're serious. He says, hey, you know what? I'm your boss and you're going to listen to me. I think you're equally arrogant because your mom used to work here. This isn't your mom's agency anymore. She retired. Do what you're told. Zip up your top. And by the way, I'll just say this. I'm 100% for women spies having their low tops. I don't want the Russo brothers to change this, but I am against a character saying, I am very serious. This is my life. I want to be treated with respect. Oh, by the way, I like to unzip my top to my belly button in my wetsuit for no apparent reason when I'm in a meeting. Unnecessary, and it goes against the character. You can have very, very attractive, sexy characters. They don't have to like have their tops unzipped.
Yeah, again, that's what I mean. It's that cognitive dissonance of someone like Priyanka Chopra, who's known for being like that, and again, I know this is going to make me sound bad, but I don't care because somebody needs to say it.
Say it.
She's known for being like that sexy, beautiful, quote unquote, not hard woman.
She's glamorous.
She is not known for being a kick-ass fighter.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it makes sense that she was in Baywatch the movie and not in G.I. Joe.
Oh man, that's another person we could have brought back, right? Bruce Willis's wife.
Demi Moore. Yeah. Oh right? Yeah, exactly. Demi Moore. Oh my God. Remember her in Charlie's Angels when she came back after her hiatus? Yeah. Very sexy, very beautiful. She was wearing that like lingerie set.
Yeah.
But my God, she was menacing as well. Yeah. And like she looked like she could fight. And of course, the role that made her famous that everyone thought of her that way was G.I. Jane.
G.I. Jane.
Exactly.
Can we also say something? Look, and there's a lot of Hollywood equalization
Yeah.
of males and females fighting. And that's okay. I mean, when I watch Dungeons and Dragons and I see Michelle Rodriguez fighting, I completely believe it. And probably in real life, she'd
Oh
be a
yeah.
great fighter. Ronda Rousey, right? When she used to do
I
roles,
buy it.
Gina
Exactly.
Carano, buy it, right? All my respect to Priyanka Chopra.
Yeah.
Not everyone has to be a fighter. You can have other roles in the agency, but please don't pretend like you're just, I mean, fighting is hard work, right? If you've ever
Yeah.
seen MMA, this isn't John Wick. This is supposed to be like a little bit realistic. John Wick is not intended to be realistic. It's about the 1 in a million. Chopra is not that lady. And that's okay. Play to
100%.
your strength.
Yeah, that sequence where she got thrown around inside that restaurant in the first or second
Yeah.
episode, I mean, that was
Yes.
cringeworthy because
Yeah.
A, no one likes to see that happen.
Yeah.
And B, it was not
Yeah.
convincing to me that you could throw Priyanka Chopra into a refrigerator and then
Yeah.
have her get up, shrug it off,
Yeah.
and punch a guy to death. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't work for me.
You know, where she was believable was the opening scene on the train where she's in the red dress,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
She's kind of flirting with the guy, and then she puts the gun in his leg. That's her role, right? Then there's a shootout. She fires a few bullets for cover. She ducks behind something. Richard Madden comes in with a bazooka and starts like blowing people away. The train goes off its rails, right? But she's not a hand-to-hand combat type of person. You know, it's not becoming of her, I think.
I totally agree. Amazon, if you're listening, which I think you are, you should let
Russo
us into the
brothers.
writer's room once the writer's strike is over.
I just want to be, I want you and I to be on something that I'm going to call the common sense
Yeah, I think you've been a
committee.
big proponent of creating this, and I am fully with you. This is a position that every studio should have.
I agree. Giving us writing control is a big leap, right? Of course I want it. I'm realistic about the fact. I'm asking that you say, okay, we got this episode written. This is how it's going to play out. Pete, Ethan, just have a listen and tell us if there's something that's going to come off like really weird here. We say, we probably wouldn't have done it like that, but it's not so bad. Or we say, hold on. You can't have this person do this. That's never going to fly, right? And they say, well, we never thought of that. Or they'll say, well, this is what we want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But there's got to be some type of like independent audit or
checks and balances, my friend. It's all
Yeah.
checks and balances.
You know, to just say like, hey, hold on, like this doesn't really make sense to us. Russo brothers, please, we really want this to be successful, but it's
I am a fan of the Russo brothers, and I
Yeah.
will gladly come work for their production company, and I will gladly take you with me so that we can become their chief common sense officers.
Yeah.
Like
Let's
they're
do that.
co-directors, we can be co-common sense operators.
The member of the Common Sense Advisory Committee.
We'll come up with a catchier name.
We will. That doesn't have like an acronym. Like what? All right. So that's Citadel, Amazon Prime. I think as everyone's heard, we've got a complicated love-hate relationship with this. Yes, I would binge episode 2 if it came out right now. Yes, if my brother said, I've only got 1 hour to watch something tonight, should I watch this? I would say, don't waste your time.
Yeah.
Go watch some of the other stuff we've talked about on
Go watch
Apple TV
Succession.
Plus.
Go watch
Yeah.
a variety of Apple TV
Yeah.
programs. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, absolutely. And I haven't heard anything about when a new season is being released. Have you?
My understanding is they're filming the second season now, or they're either already started or they're about to start. At least that's what I remember reading somewhere. I could be confusing it with another show, but I'm pretty sure that the second season was already greenlit before the first season even began being released. So I don't know when, but I'm certain we'll get it by the beginning or the middle of next year.
Pete, always a pleasure. This was one that I was looking forward to more than most. I think the point is clear. A lot of stuff to love, a lot of stuff that we wish would be tightened up. Maybe season 2, they'll get there. But right now, if you've got a lot of time on your hands, have a watch. If you are very limited on time, you need to make some tough choices. This is a mooch or a skip. You agree with that?
I agree. In fact, I wouldn't even go so far as to say mooch. I think there are other shows that would take much higher precedence than this.
Yeah. The only value is, to be fair, if this is going to be on Amazon for the next 8 years and there's going to be 2 spinoffs, I think you can probably start season 2 without watching this. It looks like that's different. It looks like you could watch the other Indian and Italian versions without watching this. You're not really going to miss anything, but it's only 6 episodes. To the extent that you wanted to watch those in like 2x speed and just kind of like knock those out so you've got a little bit of the background, that may be worthwhile doing. But Pete, you said it straight up, which is if you don't watch these, you are not going to be regretting that you missed something.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Amazon's probably going to spend some time and effort and money into making this a part of the cultural conversation.
Yeah.
To what extent, I imagine we're going to learn more about that this summer, because now that the final episode has dropped, I think now is when Amazon's going to sit down and start doing the analysis of their numbers, and they're going to see, hey, what's the ROI on this $300 million? However they judge that, I don't know. There's definitely going to be some conversations happening internally.
Amazon, I'm sure, already has the numbers, and I'm sure that they've identified what we've already probably suspected, which is the number of viewers who have started and completed all episodes has probably dropped dramatically below what they're comfortable with. And the number of people who have actually started this has probably dropped as well, right? So I'm sure they've got some pretty good metrics in terms of, hey, we expected this many people to watch. And then after the first 2 episodes, we thought this many more people would get excited. And then this percentage would complete all 6. I bet they're pretty disappointed with those numbers. And the Russos are doing a little bit of damage control in terms of, yeah, but we didn't get this. And remember, you did this and you wanted this. And they're probably doing a little bit of damage control. But at the end, I think they've got to continue to throw money after this, at least for another season or 2, and see where it ends up.
Yeah, I think that, we're now looking at the second Russo brother led program that was very expensive and probably didn't have the results that they were looking for.
Gray Man being the first.
Well, in any case, if you guys loved Citadel, or maybe you hated it just as much as us, maybe you hated it more than us, let us know. We would definitely want to hear from you. Like this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a comment. Any of those helps us out greatly. Otherwise, you can always tweet at us on Twitter at F&S Podcast, DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast, or email us aloha@filmsandstuffpodcast.com.
We're always here, looking forward to comments and feedback. We will sign off now, and we'll catch you next week on Films and Stuff.
Thanks, Ethan.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.